Hi guys, it's Izzy and today I'm going to be doing a video on, in my opinion, the best fantasy book slash series. Some of these can't technically be counted as a series because there's only been one book out so far, but I love them already, so I wanted to discuss them with you. So yeah, they're gonna be series, but as of right now there's just one book, but I think the first book is great, so yay. These are all going to be books that are high fantasy, meaning they take place not in our world. I figured if I included books that are set in our world but have fantastical elements, then the list might get a little bit confusing and a little bit long-winded. I'll probably do a second video about all the books that take place in our world but have fantastical elements. So yeah, let's get started on the best fantasy series that I have read so far. The first series is maybe an obvious series, and that is the series A Darker Shade of Magic by Victoria Schwab. This is actually the third book, but for some reason I only own the second and the third book, and the third book's my favourite, so this is the one we're holding up. But yes, A Darker Shade of Magic is a book that takes place in a world where there is 4 different Londons. Grey London, which is our London, Red London, which is the magical world that this takes place in, where there is magic and that's where magic thrives. There is also White London, which magic has become extremely vicious and the world is very violent, and Black London, which is, you'll find out in the book. But our main character is Kel. He is an Antari, which means he can use all the 5 different magics in this book. Is it 5 or 6? They're like earth, bone, water, fire, and then there's blood magic. I think that's all of them. If not, I'll leave an extra note. Kel can use all of these skills, and he can also travel between Londons, which is something only an Antari can do. And the rule for Kel is that he cannot bring anything back from other Londons to Red London, but one day he does bring something back and it starts to change the whole world, and it starts to affect his world and kind of poison people, and that is where our story starts. And this is just a fantastic magical series. It's so well crafted, the world is so expansive and detailed. I love all the characters, they're really interesting and complex, and the plotline is just so compelling. It's so exciting, there really isn't ever a dull moment. Like, this is a chunky third book, it's just over 600 pages, and I like flew through it. It was just so addicting, and it's just a great series. I love all the books. My favourite, like the order of the books, I like the third one best, the first one second, and the second one is in third place. It's got 5 stars, they basically all got 5 stars. So yeah, it's a fantastic series. Victoria Schwab is so talented when it comes to fantasy, and I love her and will read everything she's ever written because she's a genius. The next book is Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. This is a middle grade fantasy series, but it's just fantastic. It is about our main character, Morgan Crow. She is born as a cursed child, meaning that everything that goes wrong in her town she is blamed for, even though most of the stuff couldn't even possibly be her fault. And she has no friends, she's very lonely, she's ostracised by her town, and one day a eccentric man named Jupiter North comes and whisks Morrigan off to the wonderful world of Nevermore, and she has to compete in trials to enter into the Wondrous Society, which is like the best thing you can do in Nevermore. And this has 2 books out so far. The second book was even better, Wondersmith was fantastic. I've given both of them 5 stars. I think they're brilliant. They are so compelling and engaging. The characters are so fun and eccentric, and they have such great dynamics. The world is just so much fun. She lives in a hotel called the Hotel Decalion, and every room changes to whatever the person in it would like. Sometimes she wakes up with like an octopus bed, and then she wakes up with like a pool in her room. It's wild. It's great. I love it. even if you're not a massive fan of middle grade, I would definitely recommend it. It definitely gives me Harry Potter vibes, just in the like how engaging and how whimsical it is, and just so warming, and I highly recommend it. It's probably my favourite middle grade fantasy for sure. Yeah, I love it. The next series I'm going to talk about is a duology, and that is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is a high fantasy duology. It's YA, but it's quite a mature read and covers a lot of very difficult topics, but this is actually kind of a weird choice for me because I actually only gave the first book 3 stars. I did not enjoy it, but it didn't really blow me away. But the second book blew me away so much that it makes up for the first book, and I still think it is absolutely worth reading because the second book was just beyond fantastic. So yes, Strange the Dreamer is about a boy named Laszlo, and he has been raised in this library, and all his life he has been fascinated by the city of Weep, which is a city that used to be like thriving and full of magic and markets and people, and one day no one can go in or out of the city, and the name is taken from everybody's mind, so everyone just knows it as Weep. No one knows the actual true name of the place, and it has fascinated Laszlo all his life, and that's what he has studied. And one day someone from Weep comes to where Laszlo is and takes him back to try and sort a situation that is happening in Weep. And yeah, like I said, the first book was fine, it just wasn't thrilling to me, but I know a lot of people loved the first book, so I think you would be able to get through it pretty easily because it is a good book. But the second book is just absolutely mind-blowing, and I have nothing but good things to say about it. It's just so complex, the magic is so interesting, the characters are just so compelling, and the serious topics around war and how that leaves everyone involved, and who is a true villain and who is just someone that got in the way of other people, and it just explores really difficult topics as well as being a fantastic fantasy novel, and it just does the two things so well, and I think it's phenomenal. Sorry if the light keeps changing, it's like kind of sunny and then it's kind of cloudy, and my phone is not enjoying that, so we're getting some weird lighting changes. Sorry about that. The next series I have to talk about is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. There is currently 3 books out in the series, and I believe it's going to be a quartet, and the 4th book is the final book. And yes, so this is a YA fantasy. Our main character is Leia in this book, and within the first 10 to 15 pages her brother is taken by the Martial Empire. The Empire controls everything, and Leia finds out that her brother was actually a rebel trying to take down this empire that controls all of them. They are slaves. Leia and her family are basically slaves and have been for generations, and Leia sets out on a quest to find her brother, and to do that she has to infiltrate the training facility where all these Martial Empire soldiers are trained, and she becomes a slave there to try and save her brother. This book is incredible. The first book is actually my favourite. The second 2, I think I gave 4 or 4.5 stars, but this was a 5-star read, and the series is definitely worth continuing on with. I literally read all of them within like a week because I couldn't put them down. I just needed to know what happened next. Leia is such a great main character because what I really love about her is she doesn't start out brave. For the large majority of the first book she is terrified, like she is petrified, but she continues on anyway, and she loves her brother so much, she cares so much about her family, and I think that made her a really interesting character, and also really explained her motives for what she was doing. Like, you knew why she would do anything for her family, and that made a lot of sense with her actions, and she was just a great main character. But the magic is so interesting. It's really varied about how the magic manifests and the different story arcs that go along with it, but this book is just incredible. I didn't read it for so long. It had been on my TBR, like the longest book that had been on my TBR. It had been on my TBR for years, and I just didn't know if I was going to enjoy it that much, but I'm so glad I picked it up this year. It is incredible, and if you've had it on your TBR for a while and you just haven't picked it up yet, I highly recommend you do so. You will not be disappointed, and you'll probably want to read all books in succession, so prepare. The next book I have to talk about is Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. There is only one book out so far, which is Foundry Side, and I think the next one is coming out next year. I don't actually know how many books is going to be in the series, but the first one, I'm sold. It was crazy. I believe this is an adult high fantasy. It was a very, I don't know what they call like epic fantasies. I don't know, it was a very like intense hardcore fantasy. So if you're someone who likes really complex worlds and complex magic systems and really like to delve into a completely new world and just get totally sucked in, then this is absolutely the book for you. This follows our main character, what's her name? Oh my god, what's her name? This is literally half my videos. I have to just cut out me looking up people's names because I never remember anyone's name. Yeah, the next book is coming out in February 2020, but this book follows our main character, Sanchia, I think is how you say it, or Sansia. We'll say Sansia because that's easier to say. But yes, we follow Sansia, who is, when we meet her, is trying to pull off a heist to steal this item which she just wants to sell. She's doing it for money. She doesn't really know what it is. She just knows that it will probably get her a lot of money, and she's pretty poor, so she needs it. And she ends up finding out when she gets back to her home that it is actually a talking key and is extremely valuable, and the book follows her being pursued for having this item in her possession. The magic system works as it's an extremely interesting magic system. It works by people who are trained in this form of magic writing like codes on objects. So you can write a code on a wooden door to make it believe it's stone and act with the properties of stone. You can make like carriage wheels run faster by making them think there's like more gravity, or like you can make them run a lot faster. So you can basically code a lot of stuff to make it more efficient and to make it work for you. And it's such an interesting magic system. I was so interested in it. Every bit of information was just, I was just so enthralled by it, and it's a fantastic fantasy book and is maybe my favourite book of the year. It's definitely up there, top 5 for sure. It was just so good. I just couldn't put it down. I was so obsessed with it. Every minute I wasn't reading it, I was just thinking about it. It was so good, and the plot was so exciting, and you just have to read it. I know a few more people have read it on BookTube, but not enough people. It's so good. If you haven't picked it up, pick it up. The next book is kind of an obvious one, but can you make a best fantasy video without mentioning it? No, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is a duology, and it was always going to be a duology, but I think like a third book is potentially going to exist. I hope it does, but for now it's a completed duology, and it is incredible. Who hasn't read it? Very few people, but if you haven't, here's what it's about. This book follows 6 unlikely characters. They kind of suck. They're like thieves and killers and con artists, etc. They're all, it's a ragtag group of people who begrudgingly become friends and then family. Who doesn't love that? But it follows these 6 characters as they try and pull off the most difficult heist that they could possibly be given, to infiltrate the ice court, which no one has ever done. No one even thinks you can do it, and steal this captive that the ice court are holding. It's incredible. Crooked Kingdom, the second book, is even better. I love Crooked Kingdom. It's one of my favourite books of all time. So is Six of Crows, but Crooked Kingdom just takes that first place, and it's phenomenal. The characters are by far the best part. I love them so much. I love all of them. They're all my children. I would die for them. And the plot is just so compelling. It's so interesting. The it is kind of hard to understand the magic and the world at first. I would recommend reading the Grisha trilogy before reading this. You don't have to, but it made a lot more sense to me, the magic system and stuff. But if you don't read that series, you will eventually get it. It just takes a little while to get it clear about what exactly happens. But yeah, it's a phenomenal book. How many times should I use the word phenomenal? They're all phenomenal, can't help it. This is a fantastic duology. It's amazing. Read it if you haven't read it, and if you have, join me in my love for Six of Crows. And the final book I have to talk about is also a series, and I think it's like 8 or 9 books long, but I've only read the first one. I love the first one. I've already bought the second and third one, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love them too, so we're gonna mention it, and that is Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. This is I believe this one is probably a middle grade because our main character Sophie is 12 in this, but seeing as it follows her for like 8 or 9 books, I'm pretty sure by the time we're on like the 8th or 9th book, it's a young adult because she will be a young adult. So yeah, I think it's kind of like Harry Potter in the sense that it moves age category as the books go on. So yes. This follows our main character Sophie as she finds out that she is an elf and she has to leave her family behind to enter into this world of elves, and the elves also habitat the lost cities. Cities like Atlantis exist and they like live there and work there and stuff, and there are some strange fires and stuff happening in the real world that Sophie is concerned about and wants to find out more about, and it turns out Sophie is actually hiding a lot more than she thought. She didn't know any of it was inside her, but slowly she starts to realise that there's a lot more to the elf world than meets the eye. So yes, this is a really fun book. It's really nice to enter into this new world as Sophie is and to learn about it as she does. It's just such a fun read. The characters are really entertaining. There's some great friendship and familial bonds that really make the book for me. The magic is really interesting, and there is also a magical school which Sophie attends, which is really exciting, and it's just so fun to learn about all this stuff that happens in the elf world that we obviously didn't know about, and neither did Sophie, and it's just a super fun read and a great fantasy if you're looking for something just like really entertaining, maybe rather than like hardcore. It's just, yeah, a really fun read and an excellent book. So yeah, that is all of the fantasy series that I've read so far that I think are the best. I've given them all like 4.5 stars or over, and most of them are 5 stars, and they are all brilliant. So if any of them sound interesting to you, I would obviously highly recommend that you check them out because they are all brilliant, and a lot of them I was like sad I'd waited so long to read them, so if they've been on your TBR, pick them up. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments what your favourite fantasy book or series is, and I'll see you next time. Bye!